WebLayers automates the enforcement of corporate policies for WMQ services that are created using WMQ Explorer and managed and deployed in WSRR, resulting in reduced costs of service development, shorter time to market, and greater service interoperability and reliability. Here are some benefits of using WebLayers for WMQ services. Out-of-the-box policies for deploying WMQ services, the ability to apply organization-specific rules and best practices to WMQ services, the ability to validate service definitions in relation to MQ, and Q manager properties, metrics regarding design time flaws that may affect the performance of services, and a facility to create custom policies specific to the functions of a service. This diagram lays out a typical architecture for SOA governance. The system flow of the use cases we are about to demonstrate is as follows. First, a service definition is created within WMQ Explorer, and an artifact, in the form of a WSDL here, is exported out into the file system. Second, the WSRR functions load document and transition document state will be used to manage these service definitions. And third, we will show how the WebLayers system applies governance to the service artifacts and the WMQ queues and queue managers. So here we are in WSRR, and I'm going to load a service document. So I'm going to open up Service Documents, WSDL Documents, and choose Load Documents. Browse to a file. I'm going to choose a WSDL file. Open. OK, and finish. So we see here there's an error message, which means our loading of the document failed. What happened here is that the WSDL was sent to the WebLayers Center server by the governor, and all the policies, the MQ policies, were executed in order to test this WSDL for compliance. And as you may have guessed, not all the policies passed. Therefore, this error message is shown. In this particular case, the WebLayers governor is configured to block the loading of any documents that have one or more policy violations. So if we follow this link, it brings us into the WebLayers Conformance Center. You can see here there's the Conformance tab is highlighted. In the middle here, under the Test Results pane, this shows the actual policies that were violated for this test. You can see the summary up top here. It shows that 31 policies were tested, 19 failed, 2 unresolved, and 10 passed. The way this pane is arranged, when you click on a test result, below it, it will show the artifact and where in the artifact the violation or violations occurred. And it will highlight the area. You can see down here in yellow, it's highlighted the reply to element in the WSDL. For this particular policy, which states local queue manager names must be uppercase and contain no spaces. That's one of the WMQ best practices. And if we take a look, we can see that the queue manager name, in fact, does not have all uppercase characters. There are lowercase characters right here in the word services 3. Therefore, the policy was violated. And the rightmost pane provides an explanation of the policy. We can see here it states use full uppercase for all objects, including the queue manager name, to prevent portability issues in heterogeneous environments, and an example is also provided. So back to WSRR. That first use case showed the operation of the validation governor, and now we're going to show a second use case that illustrates the operation of what we call the governance validation governor. So I have a WSDL artifact already loaded into the repository here. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to choose the governance tab. This is the WSRR state lifecycle governance. The current state of this particular WSDL is created, and I'm going to choose plan to transition the state of this document, and then click on the transition button. And we can see here that we have an error message, and again it's pointing us to a link to the WebLayers Conformance Center. So let's go there and see what we have. And then we are over here in the results. You can see 8 failed, 2 unresolved, 21 passed, and those 31 tests took 250 milliseconds. The WMQ policies govern the content and structure of the service artifacts, and also can govern the properties of the queue and queue managers in relation to the service. Here's an example. This policy, the defined dead letter queue does not exist, finds the queue manager name in the WSDL, connects to it, and looks at the queue manager attributes. In this case, the queue manager defined a dead letter queue, but that queue did not exist, so this policy was failed. Here's another example. This policy states a queue's default persistence property should be set to persistent for one-way services. The implementation of this policy first looks at the WSDL, determines that it is a one-way service, then connects to the queue defined in the WSDL, and reads the value of that queue's default persistence attribute. This policy failed because that attribute was not set to use persistence. So to summarize what has been presented today, using WMQ Explorer, a service definition is created and then in the form of a WSDL exported out to the file system. The service definition is managed with WSRR. We saw today a load of a document, a WSDL document, and also the transition of that document from one state to another. WebLayers Center includes all the WMQ policies. The WebLayers governors are integrated with WSRR. The service definition is tested against all the policies in WebLayers Center, and those policies not only test the contents of the WSDL, but also the queues and queue managers that are used by the service. When policies are violated, the WebLayers governor can send a stop message to WSRR, thereby enforcing the policies.